All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Brandon Wells. I am the Assistant Program Lead for the Roanoke New River Valley Project Healing Waters. I am a Marine Corps veteran with a tour in Afghanistan in 2004, and I'm here tonight to tie the Squirmy Wormy, which to some fly fishermen is an illegal fly. But we're gonna try to tie it on tonight and maybe crush through some of those skunkings that you may come across on the river and use this one as your last ditch effort to return home with a little bit of pride. If you're a fish catching type of person, I know a lot of us just find peace and solitude out there on the water, and that's a victory too. So, but this fly is definitely a back pocket fly for a lot of guys who just rely on it to shake it up. And when nothing else is working, this one typically does. I'm going to give you a quick preview of it here on my other camera. I tied up one. That is the Squirmy Wormy in all its goodness. The method I used for this one was to actually pull the squirmy material through the bead using your bobbin threader. I'll go into that shortly, but it's a neat way to keep things a little more durable, a little more manageable, and keep the head of that fly kind of point in the right direction. So we'll get into that here in a little bit. I'm joined by Kathy Mueller, who is a assistant program lead as well here in Roanoke, and Fred Paddock, who is our program lead. I'm going to give it to Kathy first and allow her some time to talk about some future plans for our program with re-engaging as we navigate COVID. And then Fred will give us a few choice intelligence pieces on the Squirmy Wormy, and we'll get to the tie. Kathy, I'm going to spotlight you, and it's all you.
Okay, I didn't realize I was going to be doing that, but
oh, well, you don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I can say a few things. I think what I've been doing mainly is I don't know if y'all have seen the link that has been provided to us by Johns Hopkins, the coronavirus, and it will list the states, all of the states, and it gives you the percentage of positivity for the coronavirus for each state. And headquarters had said that we will not be able to meet until, and we'll go by state until we're 5% or below, and it has to be 5% for a week. And right now, Virginia is at 6.7. So we've got a ways to go to get below the 5 or get to the 5. And hopefully with the spring break happening and a lot of people getting together, it doesn't make it worse. But the first thing that we'll be doing when we get together is it will be just one volunteer and one veteran going, and you'll have to carpool, not carpool, but each drive your own vehicle, take your own food, and we will be at the point where we are not sharing equipment anymore. So once we hand out equipment to those veterans that don't have, that will be their equipment. A lot of our veterans do have equipment, so that will be good. And so I think right now they're in the testing. A couple of programs are testing, the one veteran and one participant fishing now, and they'll let us know how that works out. And we still need to wait till our state gets down to that 5%. And if anybody needs that link to watch, I can send it to you. That's probably the most important thing to watch right now.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. I apologize for putting you on the spot there.
No, that's okay.
All right. So, and I think going forward, the big takeaway from what Kathy's saying is there is a plan. There is a plan for re-engagement. There is a plan to reconvene our in-person meetings, which were so beneficial to so many of us. We've just got to play it by the numbers. We got to play it by Healing Waters rules and go from there. But rest assured, there is a plan in place to re-engage when the numbers are right and where the risk is low, and we can just get back into the swing of things, the normal we used to know. And that's comforting to know. Healing Waters has definitely got a large group of people in charge of organizing all the re-engagement, making sure it's safe and also beneficial to each veteran. So without further ado, Fred, you're next on the list of people to speak. While I get my vise set up to tie the Squirmy Worm, I'm going to put you on spotlight, and we'll let everybody gather their materials and let you take over some Squirmy Worm tricks and techniques.
All right, I'll give you a little history of the Squirmy Wormy. It's definitely not a fly for us of the dry fly purists. When trout are not sipping those classic dry flies, they're secretly gorging in protein under the surface. But for those purposes, for those purists, just look over your shoulder, make sure no impressionable people are looking before you tie one of these on, and then you can fish catching filth. As I understand, the fly was created by Dave Heiss of North Carolina, who's from Castor's Fly Shop. And when the U.S. Youth fly fishing team in 2014 won the Worlds, a couple countries claimed that the Squirmy was the only reason they won. Well, in 2000, after that win, the youth team shared the Squirmy Wormy with all the other teams, and in 2015 they won again. Just to make sure that the Squirmy Wormy wasn't the only reason they won. The Czech team actually requested unsuccessfully that the Squirmy Wormy be banned from fly fishing competitions. Many times this is a fly that's it's hit or miss a lot of times. So sometimes it works just perfect, and other times it doesn't work so well. So it's always good to have in your box. If you know there's fish in a productive water and they're not taking your go-to nymph fly, switch up to a Squirmy Wormy, and a lot of times they'll start to produce. To give you an idea, I fished it on the South Fork Holston. I was fishing the typical Waltz worm and egg pattern for the day, and I knew there was a solid fish in a hold on a run, and I switched to the worm and closed in and landed close to a 20-inch wild brown. And I was fishing blind, just kind of knowing where those fish are. But pretty much, it's a junk fly or not, it's a good producing fly. If you're not catching or nymphs, or you're just not try it for a good in a run that you normally wouldn't catch those fish, and you'll usually come up with good results. Some of the few things with that fly is always use a good sized thread, 6/0 or bigger. No head cement or anything. It tends to dissolve the material. And lay a good base down of thread and use a pinch wrap to secure it. But other than that, it's just a fly with a lot of movement, and it's a good dead drift fly, especially after a good rain, flood stage, and in good runs. But like sometimes you could put one on and not do very well at all, and some days you can't keep a bend out of the rod. So that said, it's definitely worth having in your box. That's all I got.
That's perfect, Fred. Thank you very much. Wise words.
All
right. Those of you that are participating, Fred is looking for a nickname. And so if anyone feels that they have one for Fred, please put it in the chat, and we will be sure to share that because his reputation tends to precede him. And we want to make sure that his nickname accurately depicts that. All right. I muted everyone just out of courtesy to the speakers, but I'm going to give you all a chance to unmute. Thank you, Mark. That is noted. And if you feel like you have something to say, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I'm going to get started here. I have put the bead on my scud or grub hook here, and I started my thread well behind it. I'm going to show two variants of tie tonight. I'm going to start with the lesser of the risk, because as everybody said, this is a fly that likes to fall apart as you tie it. If you crank down too hard on the wraps, it'll slice right through this squirmy material. So I'm going to start with the one that isn't as dangerous to tie, and then I'm going to end with one that is pretty neat to tie, but has a higher risk of slicing right through your squirmy material. So we'll go from there. Hopefully everybody has reached a point where they are able to match my current hook status, which is threaded, bead on, barb crushed, and thread started. If not, let me know and I'll pause a second. I still attempt to keep my pace at a level that is user-friendly. So just shout out if I'm rocking and rolling a little bit too hard, and I'll back off the gas a bit. All right, so this is the non-bobbin threader method. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my squirmy worm material right on top of the shank here and run it back. Okay. As Fred said, if you just start cranking wraps over this thing and pulling down real hard, you're going to cut right through it. So we're going to take a pinch wrap, which means that you wrap up, grab a hold of the thread, wrap back down, and then gently apply pressure downward. And now you can have a thread that isn't exerting as much pressure on your material. That is the best way to wrap this. The squirmy material is going to want to run around the shank on you. That's just what it wants to do naturally. It's going to want to run away, as you can see right there. If I just let this go, look at that. It's nastiness. And that's just par for the course. If you get it any tighter, it's going to most likely slice right through. So what you have to do as a fly tyer at this point is kind of just meet it where it's at and say, okay, we want to roll, and try to make your subsequent wraps on top of the hook shank so that the tail of this beast is facing upward. It's not going to be easy or fun, but with some experience, you can get that tail to basically head the direction you want, which is straight back. If you have to adjust your tension a little bit, don't be afraid to do that. But we want this squirmy worm material to basically lie on top of the shank and also heading straight backwards off the fly. Once you have some good wraps there, we'll lock everything down and you can trim off your excess. Again, my disclaimer, I am no pro. No one pays me to do this. I do not have a fly tying business yet. So be gentle with my technique and my finished product, please. All right, that's my little squirmy tail there, looking real nice. Now, length. So what's the length of your squirmy worm tail? Personally, it's an inch and a half max is going to get you that motion of a drowned worm floating around down underneath the water column. So I'll have some extra here, and I'm just going to trim that off now because I'm going to use it here in a moment to give us that body of this fly. With any extra thread now, if you want to try to smooth out your profile, you're welcome to. If you've got any extra bulges there of squirmy material, let's get them laid down and run your thread all the way back to your tie-in point, right where that squirmy tail leaves the hook shank. Now I'm going to tie in some excess squirmy tail here, and we're going to use that to wrap the body forward, and then we'll finish the fly. So this honestly is a very simple material fly list, but there are some more technical aspects of the tie as far as pressure on your bobbin and the pinch wraps, etc., to not slice right through the material itself. Sayward, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Fantastic. That's all I needed to see. Thank you, ma'am.
For
All
what?
right. What's that?
Why am I just to give you one or?
Well, I mean, depending on how your current fly tying experience is going.
Okay, yeah, no, it's good.
All right, good to go.
So,
Good. All right. So now I'm going to lay down my my excess material here, my squirmy material. And this is going to basically be your chenille or your dubbing, wrapping it forward. So let's tie this in again with a little pinch wrap action so as not to slice and dice it. Okay, that's where we're at. That's the little piece I'm going to wrap forward gently and carefully and lovingly. And now that I have this piece tied in, not my tail, but my body piece, I can slowly start bringing it forward, giving it a little bit of stretch, nothing crazy, covering up my thread wraps and working it forward until I get to the bead. Look at that. That's pretty right there. Multitasking, admitting people to the meeting. Again, some very careful, non-forceful wraps. More light wraps in one place than less heavy wraps in one place. Really lock it down, but not using much pressure. And we have a body of this fly that is now fairly happy to sit there without coming undone, God willing, and without slicing right through the material either. All that's left now is a whip finish. Now, Fred very accurately mentioned the fact that this squirmy material is pretty susceptible to any type of acrylate. So any of those super glues, Zap-A-Gaps, any of that material we may use to do thread lockdown in a chemical fashion. But my research suggests that the Loon clear resin strikes again and actually will not degrade the material because it's a water-based epoxy or resin, whatever you want to call it. So what I found is it holds up. It does not dissolve the rubbery material here, latex. And I'll put a few drops kind of across the threads there just to lock things in place. And everybody wins in that case. And that right there is the first of many variations that are available to you of the Squirmy Worm. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, welcomed.
Brandon,
Hit me, Becky.
something that when I was doing some research, so that I could give Sayward some hints, is that I laid down a very thin noodle of dubbing, very fine noodle of dubbing, and then tied it over that. And it pretty much, I'd say 85% takes away that trying to move around on the hook shank. So I just thought I'd put that out there.
I love that very much. I think that's probably a pretty good call. I haven't tried it, but
I saw it on YouTube.
okay, fair enough. That's a valuable spot to be. I guess the dubbing is more color of the squirmy material.
Yes, well, I actually just used a natural hairs, light tan,
Yeah.
and it doesn't show at all.
Okay, gotcha. Neat.
Yeah, it doesn't show at all.
Cool. Good idea. That's a good tip. I'm not equipped to do that right now. That's a great idea.
That's
Thank you,
okay.
Becky.
That's okay.
Can you get this material locally or do you have to order it? Mac, are you referring to the squirmy stuff?
Yes, the squirmy material.
I'm fairly certain it's available at, yeah, kind of your big box sports stores. Thank you, Mr. Legg there. Appreciate that. All right, so in the fashion of let's not settle for this version, those of us that want to maybe experiment with a different version that brings the squirmy material forward to the bead, forward to the hook eye, I'm going to drop this one out of the vise after I crush that barb just a little further. And I'm going to try for one that is a little bit more advanced as far as material workmanship goes, but perhaps more durable as well. And you don't have to wrap the squirmy material as much because you're threading the material through the eye of the bead. So stay tuned. You're going to need your bobbin threader, which is this kind of medieval looking device here. And we're going to try this out. I saw this yesterday on YouTube, Becky, in a search to tie a durable fly. And we're going to see if we can make it work. You still want a bead on there, so we will we'll throw the bead on here in a second. If your dexterity is going, I recommend using hackle pliers or some sort of a plier to thread your bead. It makes life a whole lot easier to just use hackle pliers at this point and get your bead oriented as you want it and just use gravity to your benefit. Might take a few frustrating moments of chasing beads across your hardwood floors to where you maybe have a better system for retrieving these beads and attaching them to the hook shank. All right, so now here's the interesting part, in my opinion. You will start your thread right there halfway down the shank and then just trim it off and wait a moment for step 2. I've done this 3 total times, so no judging. This method, I should say. All right, now the bobbin threader. Run that through the bead like so. I saw my video on fly fish food on YouTube. I don't know if I have to give them credit, but I'm going to anyway. And it was a neat method. All right, hold on. We got some chat action here. Particular color. Mac, I'd go light pink. I mean, I see those drowned worms all the time. They're floating by. They're like that nice light, yeah, bubble gum. All right, needle point chops off. Nice. Good tip right there as well. Lawrence, you go by Larry or do you prefer Lawrence?
I go by Lawrence.
Very well. Lawrence it is. Thank you for those tips. That's super helpful. All right, now it's time to thread the old squirmy fun times through the bobbin threader. And you probably know where I'm going now, right? That's going to be yanked through the bead very gently and carefully. So if you have some sort of lubricant, chapstick, spit, water, whatever it may be, now's the time to apply that. And patience is the key. As I said, this stuff is pretty fragile, but all we want to do is just gradually and gently pull it through. It's working until you can get some sort of grip on it. And then you stop pulling with the bobbin threader because that's way too much pressure on one spot. Switch to the old finger method. Perhaps add lubricant as needed. And come on now. There she is. Congratulations, little fella, you made it. Look at that. Look at that. It's pretty neat. Pretty neat, in my opinion. Pretty neat. So now you have a squirmy worm that wants to both worm this way and also worm that way. And you have it secured by the bead, which has to be there anyway. So great news all around. Where are we? What size bead and hook are you using on this one? Kathy, can you fill in the blanks on that hook and bead size that you sent out with this kit? I do not know offhand. Kathy is our amazing and irreplaceable supplier of supplies.
If you hold on a second, I will look it up. I believe it was a size 12 hook. And whatever size goes on the 12 hook. Let me check on that. Hold on.
Thanks, Kathy. I have 1/8 is typically a size 12, but I'll have Kathy 1/8 bead. I'll have Kathy confirm. All right, raise your hand if you are currently at this point. I'm curious. Who got it threaded? Well done, Rosie, David, Becky. Yeah. Fantastic. Good to know. Good to know. Just a neat little variation to tie. And what's really neat, truly at this point, your fly's close to finished. Your bead is snugged up to the hook eye there, so it's not going to rock forward. You can lay down a base of thread if you'd like now. Move your squirmy out of the way. Lay down a nice base of thread if you want. Move your tie-in point closer to the bead itself. Okay. And if you tie, I don't know, 4 or 5 pinch wraps here, and then your whip finish right there over the bead, I mean, you're in business. No fish is going to know the difference. And then you trim it to the length that you want. So I just thought this method was pretty neat. No fish is going to see that gap right there. You whip finish at this point here. If you are the type to use the resin, now's a great time to put that right on top of these whip finishes. And that's the end of the game for this version of the Squirmy Worm. I'll trim off the back a bit. He's a little long. Little drop of this good stuff here.
So Brandon, I'm showing for a size 12, you would use a 5/32, a 1/8, or a 7/64. And with the method you're using now, it'd probably be easier if you use the bigger one.
Yeah, you might be right.
I'm almost wondering if it would be better to thread the worm through the bead before you put it on the hook, because I'm thinking it would be easier to, you know, stick the hook through the bead with the worm already in it, as opposed to, clearly, obviously you did it.
Clearly, obviously.
I cut mine through, so I'm going to do it the first way.
I understand completely. I know now where Mark is coming from. Yeah.
I tried that. I tore up every worm. I tried to do it that way.
It's definitely not easy, but I Maybe it's just a light touch. Who knows? Maybe it's not possible with some beads. But that is our squirmy worms for tonight. I'll put them both on display here as we close out the meeting. And I really appreciate everybody attending this evening. There we go. Look at that.
Hey, Brandon,
Yes, ma'am.
Sayward was featured this week, I think it was this week, as one of our Virginia veterans, and she had an interview. Maybe she could tell us just a little bit about that.
I would love that, Sayward. You willing to take the spotlight?
No, sir. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
All right, there it is. You're on spotlight.
It's Women's History Month this whole month, and for like a whole week, and I think it's this week, so a couple more days. It's supposed to be featured women in the military, and so we had a lady come out and do an interview at the Star, and so then she put it on. They did a story on the 10 o'clock news, and then they did a story on the internet, and but she just now sent me the links to it so that I could send people. But yeah.
That's great, Sayward. That's really great.
I did post that link on our Facebook page, so you can go there and pull it up.
Oh, good, because I fell asleep.
It was a later feature, huh?
I stayed up till 10 o'clock purposely to watch Sayward on the news because Becky told us about it. Purposely till 10 o'clock. I said, oh, I made it till 10 o'clock, and I never stay up that late. So I was on the couch, and so I just laid down, get comfortable on the couch, and the introduction to the news, and that's the last thing I remember till about 3 o'clock. So thank you, Kathy, for posting that.
That's great. Now that local exposure is great, Sayward. So thank you. If there's nothing else, I will stop recording, and then anybody that wants to just small talk after, you're welcome to do so.
You should have seen the brookies that Kathy caught last week, 2 different times.
I heard good things.
She caught a monster brookie and a little stony, and then she was knocking them dead in our secret stream.
Sure.
So is 2 knocking them dead?
You landed 3 there, and then you
No, 2, just 2.
wow, it was 3.
Nope, 2.
Now, ladies.